Human rights activists say international community has abandoned intervention efforts to stop mass atrocities, leading to fears that such incidents could become the norm around world. The warnings come this weekend as this weekend marks 75th anniversary Genocide Convention and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, signed in wake Holocaust, with hope that world will act together to prevent such mass killings from recurring. However, United Nations responsibility to protect principle in U.S. efforts to establish atrocity prevention mechanisms have weakened and face a resurgence of atrocity crimes after a relative lull. At turn millennium, mass killings civilians Syria Ukraine the detention of more than 1 million Uyghurs other Muslims China were followed by war crimes Ethiopia the resumption ethnic cleansing Sudan's Darfur state 20 years after it began. On October 7, Hamas killed 1,200 Israelis, mostly civilians, and the resulting Israeli invasion of Gaza further increased the bloody chaos. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk warned that the risk of brutal crime is increasing. If you look around, you don't need to be an expert on the subject to understand the prevalence of mass atrocity, said Kate Ferguson, founding director of Protection Approaches, an NGO focused on preventing and responding identity-based attacks. We face the possibility that this violence will characterize the next political era. I wonder if we're actually in that era. In face of this turmoil, the UN Security Council was paralyzed by competition among great powers wielding veto power that were themselves implicated in these atrocities. Deadlocked by the Gaza war, UN Secretary-General António Guterres invoked decades-old clause in the UN Charter to force a debate on humanitarian ceasefire. The United States refused to support the resolution on Friday. Security Council closes UN political mission in Sudan a week early despite ongoing killings in Darfur. This is a reflection of lack of appetite for international peacekeeping missions and is final death knell for principle that international community has responsibility. Protection of vulnerable civilian populations. Adopted at the UN World Summit in 2005. I think big difference this time is that while Darfur received great attention at UN and globally in 2000s, current war in Sudan is a tragic footnote to more strategically important wars elsewhere. This unfortunately follows the pattern we saw in Ethiopia, said Richard Gowan, UN Director at the International Crisis Group. The responsibility to protect is at best a fading memory at the UN. Human rights advocates argue that the desire to prevent genocide, other crimes against humanity and war crimes has also faded from U.S. foreign policymaking. The highlight was creation in 2012 Atrocity Prevention Board, chaired by Samantha Power, a close advisor to Barack Obama and author of a book on subject A Problem from Hell America and Age. Genocide. The United S.